Hello, today I'm presenting our work on improving faithfulness in abstractive summarization with contrast candidate generation and selection. Let's begin with abstractive summarization, which is the task of generating a summary from one or more source documents with novel sentences and novel words. The novelty of the sentences and words really gives rise to one of the key issues with this task formulation, which is it becomes difficult for us to verify if a summary is faithful with respect to the information presented in the source documents. And this becomes the starting motivation for this paper, where we want to study why unfaithfulness happens in summaries and try to come up with a method to fix those summaries. In our experiments, we found that roughly there are two types of unfaithfulness in summaries. The first type being extrinsic hallucinations, where some of the words never appear in the source, and as a consequence they present unfaithful information. The second type is intrinsic hallucination, where the words or spans actually appeared in the source but are used in the wrong way in the summary. To this point, we want to ask, why do these abstractive summarization models make such mistakes? For this, we look at the extreme summarization corpus, where they collect news articles from BBC. We observe that models trained on this dataset tend to hallucinate a lot, and the reason can tie back to the fact that they are using the leading sentence of each article as the ground truth summary. The way BBC journalists typically write these articles is that they only mention the names of the involved entities in the leading sentence and use pronouns and other references to refer to it in the rest of the paragraphs. For this reason, we found that the majority of summaries in XSUM actually suffer from faithfulness issues. And if we look at the unfaithful instances in XSUM, we found that a large proportion of them can be attributed to hallucinations on entities and numbers. So these observations explains, at least in part, why models trained on this dataset is doing very bad in terms of faithfulness of the outputs. Motivated by this, we want to come up with a way to fix the entities and numbers in the summary. And the hypothesis we go for here is that the correct entity or number should exist in the source document. And if we use them to replace the ones in the summary and keep the semantic type of each entity unchanged, we're able to maintain the fluency and grammaticality of the summary. Right, here's what the pipeline looked like. For example, if you have a source document in the summary, first you process them with an NER tagger. And in the summary, for example, you found that, there's a date that never actually appeared in the source document. You first identify all the dates in the source document and use them to replace the one in the summary to generate a list of candidate summaries. Next, we train and use a summary ranker to find out which one of the entities of the candidates are most faithful. How do we train the summary ranker? We first want to sample training data from XSUM. We do this by sample from the training set of XSUM and only look for summaries where all entities have appeared in the source document. This way we can assume that the summary is faithful. Next, we intentionally generate unfaithful variants with similar methods to the candidate generation method we just described. And then we use the generated training data to train a summary ranking model with contrastive learning, and we get the test classifier for telling whether a summary is faithful or not. We then apply this method on summaries generated by a bar-to-large model fine-tuned on this dataset. And then we found that our method is able to make changes to about 13% of the summaries. And then we quickly verified that the fluency of the changed summary remained on the same level as before. In terms of faithfulness, we use FEQA, which is a QA-based evaluation metric for faithfulness. The basic idea is first automatically generate questions on spans in a summary, and then use a squad QA model to see if it can derive the exact same answer from the source document as in the summary. Turns out under this metric, we show that the summaries produced by our method improves in terms of faithfulness compared to the original summaries from Roth Large. Digging a little bit deeper, we ask human annotators to assign each summary into one of the three categories. With this experiment, we reached the interesting but very natural observation that although our model is able to fix most of the extrinsic hallucinations, it also very naturally introduced intrinsic hallucinations on mistakes. Some error analysis. The key question we want to ask here is, can our entity-based approach solve the entire faithfulness problem? And unfortunately, the answer is no. We observed that many summaries cannot be fixed with just replacing entities and numbers. For example, it could be that there are no correct alternative entities exists in the source document. And then some of the more difficult instances require compositional reasoning or external knowledge to solve. For example, in the second example, in the table, the source document says 2 fugitives and another fugitive have been arrested, which makes 3 the correct answer in this case. Conclusion. We study entity replacement as a way of fixing these unfaithful summaries. Our method is doing good in terms of fixing extrinsic hallucinations, but our method really only solves part of the picture, as some of the instances require external knowledge or compositional reasoning to solve. And that's it for the presentation. Please refer to our papers for more details, and check out our code and data and models from the link below. Thank you.